The Dallas Cowboys re-signed a defensive tackle this week, but also lost one. How important is that need going into the draft? All that more this episode of Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your
Locked
daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on
Cowboys.
Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me, as always, is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, we have questions today. It's a Friday. How you doing, sir?
It can't get better than that. Friday and question day. It's pretty great. I'm ready to get going. Let's hear some questions.
Yeah. First question from Wise Trader wants to know, with Carlos Watkins signing with the Cardinals, I know we're all very sad, did drafting an interior defensive lineman just move up a notch as far as importance? We should mention, because we haven't talked about it yet, the Cowboys did re-sign Jonathan Hankins to a vet minimum deal. They lost Carlos Watkins, as the listener mentioned. What do you think about it as a need?
Well, let's start with Hankins because we haven't had a chance to talk about that. But I think it's great that they were able to re-sign Hankins. There was some thought that maybe he wouldn't sign until a little bit later so that he wouldn't have to come into camp and some of those things. So it's great to get him on the roster early and have him involved in that up front. We're all very excited about that. That was kind of expected, which is why we're not going to make a bigger deal than that, is that we all kind of felt like that was going to happen. The Watkins news is disappointing for all the reasons that we talked about why we needed to sign him, right? Like, he is just such a valuable down roster defensive tackle. He's just a rotational guy who could play both the 1 and the 3 and did both very well. There was definitely stretches of the season last year where he was playing as well as any of the defensive tackles on the roster. Yeah. And, especially after Hankins got hurt, the Cowboys really had a huge void there, and you wondered how they were going to be able to fill it. Watkins did an admirable job trying to kind of fill in that role and increasing his snaps to probably around, I think he was ending up somewhere around 20 to 25 to 30 snaps a game near the end. So just a valuable piece, a guy that, despite being he's really odd in one of those players that's down roster, but he's on the field a lot. And like I said, near the end of the year was really a kind of a valuable piece of this defense. So it's going to be tough. I think the Cowboys are clearly going to have to, more seriously look at defensive tackle in the draft. Not that they weren't already. I'm assuming that this is all part of the plan, and that they weren't surprised to lose Watkins.
They probably didn't want to bring back two 30-year-old defensive tackles, which I get. I mean, although we both wanted to see Watkins back because we really admire what he kind of grew into and what he did down the stretch. But at the same time, I can see them wanting to get another rookie contract on the books because Tristan Hill is gone, right? Yeah. Neville Gallimore going into the final year of his deal. And oh, by the way, we're halfway through Osa's contract already. Like, it's probably time to get somebody else in here.
Yeah, maybe two people, honestly. I mean, that's the thing, is that when you lose, 2 draft picks or just, Gallimore is still here and he's going to be on the roster. But at this point, he's been relegated to the very bottom of that rotation. So that kind of gives you an idea of what they think about where he's at.
What's hurt them a little bit is not missing on the John Ridgeway pick last year, but not having that guy on the team. Right? Like somebody who was down the roster that you were developing, ready to go. When you lost a defensive tackle, just didn't work out.
Yeah. I mean, it's the positive development there is that you don't feel like you actually missed on him. Like, he ended up, signing up with Washington and playing a lot of snaps for them and playing pretty decently. So you feel good about your evaluation. You don't feel good about how the roster got managed there. But I mean, the Cowboys are a team that has a lot of talent. And it's just tough to hold on to all of it with obviously the limits. So
to answer the question, Landon, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was done.
I don't think this moves up the importance because I think the Cowboys, you mentioned, they probably were planning for this,
was
right?
Cooked in, yeah. That's what I'm thinking too, right? Like that this was, not a lost negotiation to Arizona as much as, man, good luck to you. We really hope you thrive there. We're gonna look to move in a younger direction simply for all the reasons that you just mentioned. And, I mean, they have to get younger at the position because otherwise they're going to constantly be chasing this dragon of trying to sign veteran defensive tackle free agents. So,
At the same time, I mean, you could make a case that it's the biggest need on their team right now, right? Like, you probably need another guy, and it's listen. You and I do a ton of these mock draft simulators. Do you ever love the day 2 defensive tackles that are available to you?
No, I don't love the day 2 guys. I think there's some day 3 guys that are of good value that you can get some
rotational guys, right?
Yeah. Here's the thing though. I don't know that what the position that you're looking to fill is defensive tackle in general is not easy necessarily to draft and fill, but you're really kind of looking for more the tweener 1-3 type guys that I think that you can find in the later part of the draft. But if you're looking for a guy to come in and be more than what Carlos Watkins was, it's going to be difficult. I think if you're looking for an upgrade or a guy that can kind of come in and replace not even just what Carlos Watkins does, but maybe give you the kind of production that you were expecting out of a Tristan Hill, that you had penciled in for that kind of, second round draft pick.
Sure.
You may have to reach a little bit in the early part of the draft in order to kind of get that guy.
It's why I'm not ruling out like Mozzie Smith as a potential option at 26. Brian Breezy, I don't think you and I are massive fans of him, but like if he's there at 26, I could see that being an option. And we should also mention, Lucas Van Ness is somebody that I can't figure out. I don't know if he's an edge or he's a 3 technique or is he a 4-eye? I have no idea. But that's at least somebody that does project that could play inside in the NFL. So I think we need to put that on our radar as a potential round 1 pick, maybe higher than anybody's thinking.
Yeah, I think that it would behoove everyone to kind of make sure that they've taken a look at all the defensive tackle type prospects, especially in the top 3-ish rounds, and be familiar with them, because I do think that there's a chance that that one of these guys that maybe we haven't been mentioning in our rotation or other folks haven't been like throwing out there, but they draft a defensive tackle a little bit earlier than we expect, even if they miss on some of the other early guys like Mozzie and Breezy.
I'm going to keep coming back to this. Mel Kiper Jr. last year was the first person I saw put Tyler Smith in a mock draft to the Cowboys in late March. He's got really, really good connections when it comes to the Cowboys. I got to assume it's from the Joneses, right? Who did he have mocked to the Cowboys in his latest mock draft? That would be our guy Tommy from Northwestern, a 282-pound athletic freak. Wouldn't be surprised if that's the pick there for the Cowboys as well. Let's get to more questions, Landon, when we get back. This episode is brought to you by Built Bar. The Built March Madness bracket is here, and we know you have a favorite bar or puff, and now is your time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. You know that I'm going to be voting for Cookie Dough, my absolute favorite Built Bar. And if you want to support your favorite sports team to win, then you'll be voting for that bar too. Support your team, support your bar or puff. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you'll be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have the absolute best Built bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. You've got to try Built Bar, the absolute best protein bar on the market right now. Only 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, but only 4 grams of sugar. Plus, it's covered in 100% real chocolate. So it tastes like you're just eating a candy bar. You're not even going to know that it's good for you. Run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March. By the way, today is the last day of March. So go and support your pick. Again, BuiltMarchMadness.com. All right, Landon, let's get to some more questions. This one from VA Chelsea fan. He wants to know, could right tackle be a sneaky play at number 26 for the Cowboys, given recent developments? It doesn't seem like the front office views Terence Steele as a long-term answer. I would maybe push back on that a little bit.
Yeah.
And this seems like Tyron's last ride, but Steele's also a free agent next year. And with the free agent market exploding at right tackle, could this be a pick?
I would again caution people from reading too much into what's been said out there about the position. It's still March. They're still throwing things against the wall. I think that they're still trying to figure out exactly what they're doing here. They have a good situation. Like you've got 3 starter level tackles on your team. That's and a couple of them that are better than that. So I think that's a positive development, and trying to figure out how to put them on the field is a good problem to have.
Yeah. Trust me, there's other teams that would love to have this problem right now.
Absolutely, right? They would love to have the sour face of having to think about putting one of their 3 tackles at guard.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing that this is settled law. To use the parlance, I just think that this is a situation where we're still in March. We still have a new offensive line coach. They're still trying to figure out what's going on here. Now, I do think that some of the angles have changed a little bit, like based on if they're going to change protections, like we talked about. But I also think that no one has put on pads and done any pass sets yet. So I don't think that it would be wise for the Cowboys to draft an offensive tackle high that they don't think can potentially play another position. Because they have 3 of them. I have a very, very hard time believing that they're not going to try to find a way to bring Terence Steele back or keep him, and that they've
However, we saw the right tackle market this year was dumb, right? Like Jaywan Taylor, who, I mean, I like Jaywan Taylor. I think Terence Steele last year was better when he was healthy. Yeah. Got $20 million per year, $60 million guaranteed. We saw Mike McGlinchey, who got thrown all around in that playoff game by the Cowboys. He got $52 million in guaranteed. Andrew Wiley, who was clearly the worst offensive lineman for Kansas City last year by a lot, got $8 million a year by Washington. So maybe there is a little bit of planning. Like, hey, if Terence Steele wants to come back on a team-friendly deal, that's awesome. But if he wants to get 17 or 18 million a year, and there's an option at 26 available, maybe you don't turn it down.
The problem with that to me is that you're drafting someone at 26 who's not going to play,
unless you think he can play left guard.
Then that goes back to my original point: is that it's got to be somebody that you feel like can play another position. But
man, I got a guy for you.
Broderick, what's his name from Georgia?
Probably not. I think he ends up going higher. What about Darnell Wright from Tennessee?
Has he played anything other than right tackle though?
I don't think so. I'll double check right now.
I don't think he has. I mean, I think that's.
I think that's somebody that could project as a right tackle in the NFL.
Oh yeah, a right tackle for sure.
Or sorry, as a guard.
Yeah, but as a guard, yeah, I think that makes some sense too.
I'm double checking.
Just physically. I'm pretty sure that he hasn't played any guard though.
No, he did play left tackle though in 2021.
Yeah. Okay. And was bad, right?
It wasn't great. It wasn't great.
His 2021 tape is not great. Look, it's a projection. That's my issue, is that you kind of threaded a needle last year with Tyler Smith, in the sense that you got a guy who ends up playing left guard and left tackle pretty decently, definitely at left tackle. I understand the thought process. I think the financials and the team building aspect of that is sound, but I have concerns with potentially wasting a pick if you do that. I
think 26 is a little high to do that. I don't know if it's going to line up really well. Now, if you told me at 58, like, I like Matthew Bergeron a lot from Syracuse.
Okay.
And I think he could potentially play guard in the NFL. He played left tackle at Syracuse. I think that's somebody that you could draft, have him be a swing guy early on, and then in year 2, maybe you start him at right tackle. Or the North Dakota State kid, Cody Mock, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's another guy who played tackle in college. Maybe he plays guard in the NFL, but eventually could play right tackle. It's just 26 feels high.
Yeah, I think that's the issue for me, is that I feel like there are a couple of guys who probably could do it. None of them I want to take at 26. I mean, there's some of the guys that I would take at 26, but they won't be there. And the rest of them I would say would be like you said, 58 and
Now,
beyond.
There was another question kind of tied into this one. Like, let's say the Cowboys just have a monster grade on pick your offensive lineman.
Okay.
Could they theoretically trade Terence Steele during the draft or after the draft?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there's probably some, trade value there because his contract's nothing. And I mean, say what you want about him. The Cowboys have. He's probably the best run blocking offensive tackle in football last year, or one of them.
And I know you have a second round tender on him right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to.
Yeah.
So maybe a team like Miami, who doesn't have a lot of picks but could use a right tackle, is like, hey, we'll give you 4 years for $40 million, Terence Steele. Here's a third round pick. I could see that.
Yeah. I mean, and then if that's the case, then suddenly, yeah, you do have, you do have to go in there and draft an offensive lineman, and at that point, you may even consider doing it at 26. I mean,
yeah. Well, and I think to me, this is something that you do after you draft a guy at 26, right? Like,
yeah, probably.
It would have to be like, hey, we've got a top 10 grade on this guy. We just can't pass him on 26. Well, and we've had teams that have floated some interest at Terence Steele. That's the only way that I think it makes sense.
And maybe what you do is you offer Terence as like the backup plan to some team. Like, hey, hey, if you don't get that tackle that you're looking for in the first round, give us a call. We'll give you a starter level tackle for way less than the 15th or 20th pick or whatever you guys missed your tackle on. So,
all right, let's run through a couple of these questions.
Let's do it.
Quick. This one from Christian: Quentin Johnson or Osiris Torrance at number 26?
Osiris Torrance. I'm getting such strong John Doxson vibes from Johnson now.
It reminds me a lot of Burks last year. Where like, hey, you're this athlete who wins only on athleticism, but suddenly you're not fast and you can't change direction.
And listen, I may have been wrong about Treylon Burks. I think he had a pretty decent rookie season.
Yeah, it's fine.
But I'm not gonna risk it all to gamble against those type of players, those types of wide receivers. And to me, it's all that athletic testing. It just confirmed what I saw on tape, that he's an athletic, incredible jumper. I have concerns about him being a first round receiver and being overdrafted because I don't think his skill set matches that.
Next one from Peppery Boy 89 wants to know Darnell Washington or Michael Mayer for the Cowboys.
Michael Mayer. I don't know. Well, now that we've had this conversation, maybe Washington, if something happens to Steele, but I think I would pick. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I was thinking Darnell Wright.
Darnell Washington or Michael Mayer.
Oh, sorry, Darnell Washington. I think. Yeah.
Is it close for you or no?
It is close because I do think, and I'm fighting with it a lot because I think that what I'm trying to retain is how I felt about Mayer when I watched him on tape, because I do think his tape is much better than Washington's. But there's upside there with Washington that is very much untouched.
I watched all of Michael Mayer's receptions from the last 2 years last Saturday. And it's incredible, man. Like, he just gets open. He makes so many ridiculous catches. Now, there are a lot of times where guys are draped all over him because he's just not the athlete that some of these other tight ends are. But, like, if you want a guy that's just going to make every single contested catch, it's him. But if you're drafting for upside and you're trying to hit a home run, I kind of think it's Darnell Washington. I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think their tags would probably be touching, and they're completely different types of tight ends, which is interesting.
All right, let's answer some more questions when we get back. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The tournament is heating up, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That is up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the net at the end of the tournament, all in an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. All right, Landon, we've got about 5 minutes left in the show, and we've done shows all week. This question is specifically for you. This one from Steven. He wants to know, what do you think of Parrish Derrick, the fullback from Houston.
No,
who are your favorite fullbacks in this class?
Derek Parrish is one of them.
This is like catnip for you, by the way.
Yeah, Derek Parrish is very good. I like Derek Parrish a lot because of listen. I'm a fullback believer. I think that's obviously why this question was brought to my attention. I think we have to be realistic that fullback is a position that it's tough to survive on a roster on your own. Mm-hmm. You got to be able to do a lot of different stuff. So for me, I like versatility. Look. Digging a guy out of the hole is line one for a fullback for me.
Yeah.
Like being physical, that's line one. But you gotta be good enough at a lot of other things in order to make yourself available on game day to even be on the roster. So I like Parrish a lot because he played linebacker, he played edge for Houston. He did a lot of different stuff. He's a freakish athlete for a guy his size. But obviously he can play fullback for you. He can run down and cover kicks for you. And special teams is where you're going to want your fullback playing the vast majority of their snaps, to be honest. So a guy like Parrish really makes a lot of sense because he can play special teams and then he can do all those other things. A couple other guys, just to name off the top of my head, I'm going to totally screw up his name, but the North Dakota State kid, Hunter Lupke, I think is his. I liked him a lot. Just a guy who I think really fits kind of a West Coast offense. Really, I could easily see him in like a 2010 Green Bay out uniform instead of John Kuhn. Just versatile, catches the ball, physical.
I got one.
Yeah, let's hear it.
My favorite fullback in this class isn't even really a fullback. It's Braden Willis from Oklahoma.
The tight end from Oklahoma? Yeah. Okay.
It's just, and he sat behind the other guy, that Jeremiah Hall, a couple years. But man, he played everything for them. He was a tight end. He was a running back. He was a fullback. He was a wildcat quarterback for them. And pretty productive. Like, he had over 1,000 receiving yards in his career, 13 touchdowns, ran the ball pretty well for them. I just think I also like his body type. He's almost 6'4", 240, and he's a good athlete. Like, I could see him being one of these, not a traditional fullback, but more of that H-back role in the NFL, and I think it's valuable.
Yeah, it's you're seeing more and more of these of those body types. I think Sam Laporta is kind of similarly sized, right? Like a little bit shorter, but still kind of thicker, like a move tight end type. Not to invoke his name, but to me, the body type is that you're looking for is Aaron Hernandez, right? Like that's the sort of body type. So,
but I think like Delaney Walker a little bit.
Yeah, that's another one too, right? Yeah. I like those body types. I feel like I have been begging for those types of players to be used in the Cowboys offense more and more because I just think you can do so many creative things in the pass and the run game with it. So, there's lots of those guys that are interesting. They're all going to be kind of down, the draft guys. But I would say just look for guys that you see that can do more than one thing, because no matter how good they are as a fullback, they have to be able to tackle. They have to be able to catch the football. They have to be able to do enough to roster them on game day.
And it's why I like Willis so much, is because he has the receiving production on top of the blocking experience.
You can do some trick stuff with him, right?
He's
quarterback, right?
You can have him throw stuff. He was also, he did punt and kick returns for them early on in his career. So he just did a little bit of everything. And plus he played special teams. But if you're looking for more of the traditional fullback, it's the guy from North Dakota State. And even then, he played some running back for them as well. So I don't know if we have a pure fullback prospect in this class.
Those
I know
those other players don't exist anymore. Honestly, that's what you're looking for is those kind of guys, the sort of just versatile football players. Usually coaches' sons, they like to wear a lot of hats because they love football. And those are the kind of guys you're looking for at the position. Someone who is egoless enough to not feel anything about having to hit a defensive lineman in the hole to clear it out, but then on the next play is athletic enough to run out in the flat, catch the ball, and make the guy miss for a few yards.
What you're seeing is they're just not coming out in the draft, so you basically have to make them. Right.
Yeah.
You take a linebacker. Right. Well, I mean,
like Keith Smith, right?
Like Keith Smith just signed a contract extension with Atlanta. He was a linebacker for Dallas, and you made him. Or
how many years now? 12 years.
I mean, it's been something wild like that. Or you take somebody like Jamaze Olawale, who was a running back or a tight end at North Texas, and you turn him into a fullback. So, man, those guys just don't come out very often anymore. It's too bad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a rare body type too. That's why I think honestly, that's why it's not like more of a part of the offensive scheme regularly, is because it's kind of rare to find these guys. And if they're not super, super valuable, and if you can avoid using it, which you can run an offense without a fullback. I can understand why teams aren't constantly drafting these guys, because it's not an easy spot to find, to be honest.
You're saying there's not a lot of 5'11", 265 guys out there?
I mean, I'm shoveling down all these powdered donuts. I'm trying to get there.
Let me rephrase that. There are a lot of those guys out there, just none of them play football.
Or muscular. No, that's true.
Shout out to all the fullbacks that are still out there. That's it for today's show. Thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every day. Now make your second listen to Locked On NFL Scouting Show with the Draft Dudes. From free agency to the draft, salary cap management, and more. Join NFL experts Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino as they take you through what it's like to build a successful NFL franchise every Monday through Friday. Find Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes wherever you get your podcasts on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Go check out our show on YouTube. We post shows every single day over there. Go follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. And we'll see you guys next time.